Good morning. Welcome back to Hiking with Kathleen. Today, you're catching us as we are at stop 1 on our way to Newfoundland. So we are in Quebec and there's such beauty around here. We're just outside of the city of Montreal and we're staying in a campground along with a couple of friends of ours that actually are from Ontario, originally from Quebec. They lived in Ontario for many years and now they're back living in the Montreal area and we're here visiting with them. So Shannon is in here just getting herself sort of organized. We've already been up and at it for a good portion of the morning and we're going to be leaving here tomorrow en route to Nova Scotia. So we're going to bring you along on this journey. Well, we're on the road again. So Shannon and I are leaving the Montreal area now, where we were camping with some good friends, as I mentioned yesterday. And we are now en route to New Brunswick. New Brunswick is just a stop, and then we are continuing on to meet up with some other friends in Nova Scotia. So we're bringing you right along, and at this point, we're passing over the St. Lawrence River. So it's over the awesome. Good morning. This is our first experience with staying overnight at a truck stop. So we did that in New Brunswick, which is the only stop we're making. It wasn't a good experience. And it's for no reason other than we were nicely tucked away in the back corner. I didn't take any footage, but we were nicely tucked away in the back corner of this truck stop. And it wasn't for, a little while later, I suppose it was, there was another travel trailer that parked with one space between us, like a nice respectful distance, and otherwise the other areas had a lot of transport trucks. Well, wouldn't you know, at bedtime, a tractor trailer parked between us and he left his engine running all night long. So a tent trailer does not have really thick walls, so needless to say, we didn't get an awful lot of sleep. But we are on our way through New Brunswick, going out the other side to Nova Scotia, and we'll catch up with you when we're there, because then that's when we're going to set up camp. We chose a truck stop as our plan to make our way from Quebec to Nova Scotia, because we knew we weren't going to have enough time. We weren't visiting with anybody, so we were just planning to sleep there. And that's the only thing we failed to do well, was sleep. So anyway, we'll pick you up later on this trip. Good morning from Nova Scotia. So Shannon and I met up with some friends, Heather and Sue, last night, and we had a really nice visit with them, had a bonfire. And so here we are near the town of Terra, and that's after leaving our very good friends Suzanne and Claire, sisters that we left behind in Montreal. So it's been a really fulfilling vacation to be able to travel from Ontario out to Newfoundland, and I know that the adventures are just ongoing. Look at the cute place where Heather and Sue are staying. So I'll give you a little update. So we are about 5 days into our East Coast trip, and we just parted ways with our friends Heather and Sue, and they live in Nova Scotia, so they're heading back to their hometown, and we're heading to the last leg of our Nova Scotia trip, which is not far from where we catch the ferry to Newfoundland on Sunday. So today is Saturday, we're catching the ferry tomorrow. So we're just spending one night at friends in our trailer, in their driveway, plugged into their electricity. So that way we have a good chance to visit, and yet we don't intrude. They get to sleep in their space, we get to sleep in ours. So anyway, we had a really nice time. By this point, we've had a chance to explore Victoria Park and Truro, which is the town that was nearest the campground we stayed in last night, for the last 2 nights. And yeah, so we'll show you some good footage from that and continue on our travels.
At the roundabout, take the first exit to Highway 4.
Do you feel like you're hearing the instructions in stereo? So, we're trying to avoid a dirt road. We've spoken with our host, who's given us some directions around gravel roads. Because with the trailer, you try to avoid that as much as possible, especially if you're supposed to go highway speeds. So, anyway, that's what we're doing. But, oh my God, look at this awesome scenery. Shannon and I have arrived in our last stop in Nova Scotia before we head over to Newfoundland, and we're taking the ferry tomorrow, which is a Sunday. So this is where we have set up our trailer, and it is at the property and business of friends of ours, and I'm going to show you a little bit around here. This is the name of the place for people who might be interested in staying here in a spot of paradise in Nova Scotia. I'll show you around the place and you'll see why you might want to stay here. Yeah, Shannon and I are really loving this new setting to call our home for the night. So we just have our trailer parked in their driveway tonight, and then our ferry doesn't leave for Newfoundland until about 5:30 p.m. local time tomorrow, but we have to be there several hours early to board. So we're really just getting, maybe 18, 20 hours with these friends, including the time we're going to be sleeping. But I'll show you the piece of paradise that they live on. Yes, the bugs are out here. But this is how you can enjoy a beautiful walk in the woods in the end of the afternoon. a bit of a rainy start to the day, and I brought Miley down with me to the gazebo. In this way we can have a look at the water. Now I'm a little concerned because I know the only place she can actually look out is this screen door, and you can't lock it from inside. So I'm kind of standing by it to make sure it doesn't blow open. There's a loon right out front. What a beautiful setting. Love it here. Well, it's been a stellar drive out here to a city that's not far from the Newfoundland ferry. So on our journey over this past week, we went through the Montreal area to camp with friends Suzanne and Claire. Then we moved on right through New Brunswick, just stayed briefly at a truck stop, and then continued on to Terra, Nova Scotia, where we met up with some friends from the Halifax area, Heather and Sue. And this is our final destination before getting on the ferry, which is where we are just outside the Sydney area to spend time with Karen and Christine. It's been a really wonderful part of the journey where we got to connect with friends, spend time with them, and just sit still for a night or two. And so later today we're going to head to the line to wait for our spot to get on the Newfoundland ferry, which I guess will take probably about 16 hours. So I thank you for joining us on this video, and I hope that you stay tuned for the next one. Bye for now. Welcome back to Hiking with Kathleen. Today we are in the beautiful province of Newfoundland, and we've been here since yesterday. I got our site set up probably around 7:30 or 8 o'clock local time, and so Shannon and I are just getting ready. We're gonna do some errands. We are camping in a campground that is not too far from St. John's, Newfoundland. So we had a ferry ride, and before we signed off last time, the ferry ride was something we expected would take about 16 hours. We could feel the ship going through really rough waters. We rented a cabin, which they're very small, but hey, it provided us with beds and a place for the cat to roam around. So it turns out we didn't get a lot of sleep that night, and I sat up and did editing for the video that you would have seen on our trip from Ontario to Nova Scotia. So that video was put together while I was on board, and we had to wait in the harbor about another 3 hours for the water to calm down. That's how it is when you're on a ferry, because they can't bring you in close to... That's a helicopter going overhead. Yeah, you can't anchor, or you can't dock the ship when there's a lot of wind, and there's lots of cars and things like that that are down below, so you have to make sure that it's going to be a smooth landing for all. Anyway, we're here now and we are ready to explore. Stay with us, won't you? Okay, so we came to St. John's in order to upload a video at some sort of Wi-Fi place and do grocery shopping and laundry. Turns out we're going to do the Wi-Fi thing and laundry back at the campground, and we're going to do grocery shopping after we look around. So that's what we're on our way to do right now. Okay, we're expecting to get our steps in today. We're going uphill, and that's just the way these streets are designed. We're admiring the colorful buildings, and that's what these homes are built on. Is on hills with the colorful buildings, colorful houses. With this GoPro, you don't get a real sense of the steepness of these streets. We're walking on quite a steep road. So what do you think?
I like seeing the colorful houses along the shoreline up at, well, actually up in the rock area. Very colorful. I love it.
Thought she was following me. Are you being inappropriate again?
Oh, sort of.
So we have a beautiful view behind us, behind these iron gates. But one of the things I guess we're most impressed by when we first arrived from the ferry yesterday is how thick the forests are as you come through here, full of coniferous trees, the ones that are cone bearing, or what we call evergreen trees. So I had a lot of those, and then we continued along the highway and we saw largely rock surfaces. So I guess this is the province they call is the Rock, right? And so yeah, just beautiful scenery along the way, and now we're in beautiful St. John's. And so we only put a short amount of time in the meter, so we're just having a quick look around town because we thought we were going to be doing a few different things here. After we finish having a look in this vicinity, we'll find a grocery store, get a few errands run, head back to the campground, and continue our travels there. So we just finished a quick walk around downtown St. John's, and we went into a store named Wild Things. And the young woman was very, very helpful. I asked if she was a proprietor or an employee, and she said her parents were the owners of the store, and so she works along with them as their daughter. So we were asking her where to find certain things, and she came up with...
Please drive to highlighted route.
And she came up with a list of things that she, you know, oh, and this is the name of the business. Her name's Angela, and I just found that she was very, very helpful. So I kind of like to mention that to people, because then if you're looking for something to do in a town and you come to St. John's, she's a really good person to use as a resource. So we're going to be on our way to the grocery store, get that job done, and move on from there. So welcome to our dinner table. We spent the day doing chores. So we went into St. John's, picked up some groceries, nice full fridge again. And then we did our laundry. I uploaded a video that shows our journey from Ontario to Nova Scotia. And we are about to have a lobster dinner. This is what we bought at the grocery store. Woo, doggy. So thanks for joining us for this meal. We'll see you again, probably in the morning.
Get our captain comes up from down below. He looks aloft and he looks alow. He looks alow and he looks aloft, saying let's coil those ropes, boys, fore and aft, with the big bow wow, dow row row. where the sharks will have his body and the devil take his soul with the big bow wow, dow row row. Roll the right all day with the big bow wow, dow row row. Roll the right all day.
Holes. So that's a characteristic of a baleen whale. Fox, ready? 1, 2, 3.
So most of what we had a chance to see was on Gull Island, where a lot of the puffins find safety. So we're just finishing up the afternoon today, and this is our last day. We weren't here in the St. John's area for very long. We arrived by ferry 2 nights ago, didn't get to the campsite till about 7 p.m. Yesterday, as I'd mentioned, was our catch up on buying groceries, getting our laundry done, and uploading another video. So we got that done, and then today the weather was amazing, and so we went for a boat ride. So I guess it was focused on finding puffins, and there's a colony that's well known, well over 300,000 puffins that are nesting in that area called Gull Island. And other birds are their predators, interestingly enough, because they really don't have to worry about mammals. It's an island that most mammals can't swim to. Although I think they did say that they have seen a moose there. Moose are very strong swimmers, but this is having to go through the ocean in order to get to that island. So that's what we did, and then I just finished a hike. Shannon had some downtime, and I finished a hike around a body of water, all within walking distance here. The name of the facility is called a flavarium. That is the study of streams. So we didn't go into the building, but I brought my camera, and the footage I've taken from there is what you will have a chance to see. It's not very different from what we would see in Ontario, but it's neat to see that there are some parts of Newfoundland that are reminiscent of home. The name of the park that we're staying in is called Pippy Park, and it was actually recommended to us by other friends that have traveled to Newfoundland. And it was good because, you know, St. John's is like 10 minutes away. So we even made another stop at the grocery store in St. John's today. So that makes it ultra handy. It has laundry on site. It has Wi-Fi in the laundromat. That's free. So, I mean, those things are really nice to have available to you when you're camping. What highlights can you think of?
All the bodies of water when you're driving around. It's very hilly and pine trees after pine trees. When we first got here, we saw a snowshoe hare, so that was pretty exciting to see. I like that there are gravel in their campsites, not a lot of sand, so you keep your trailer a little cleaner for sure. It's just really beautiful around here. I'm looking forward to exploring the rest of the island.
We should also mention Miley's been enjoying her time here. Not while it's been raining, and I mean, we have had rain on and off throughout our time. Today, not a drop of rain, but Miley, I put her out in the tent this morning and it was wet from last night's rain. She wasn't that impressed with me, but today's in pretty good shape. Well, we left Pippy Park campground this morning, and that was very close to St. John's, so it was a very convenient location. We stayed there for 3 nights, and we have just arrived in Terra National Park. And so we just got everything all set up. It took us, we're getting pretty quick at this. And also there were bugs, so it kept us moving. So this time we put up the dining shelter. We haven't done that yet on this camping trip. We took the bikes down from the front of the trailer, and now we have them locked up inside the dining shelter. So we hope to use them at this park. It was beautiful driving across Newfoundland in order to get here. Lots of opportunity to see the ocean, bays. Yeah, it was just a really neat experience, but we didn't have many pullovers, and we didn't want to do that really. We wanted to make sure we just got here and got set up so that we can start exploring the area by leaving the trailer stationary. Miley's very happy we're here. She doesn't like the driving part, but she's very happy when she gets to a new campground with new odors. So these are really nice campsites. I have to say there was a lot of great things about Pippy Park. We did a couple of walkabouts at the end of the day, and that's a really great place to consider booking as you get off the ferry, because it's close to St. John's, so you can load up on your groceries, gas, whatever it is you need. But it's nice to now move away from the larger cities and be able to admire the natural beauty. So I see that there is a site beside us. There isn't much of a buffer zone, but the buffer zone behind us is amazing. We were given the warning as we came through the gate and registered. We are in bear country. I hope that we have a chance to see a bear. Certainly not an aggressive encounter, but it'd be really awesome to be able to see some campground bears that aren't accustomed to people. That I would really love. So anyway, we'll keep you posted as we continue our travels. Yeah. It's the warning call. Is that the iceberg? Yes. We're just becoming familiar with Terra National Park, and there's some pretty spectacular views. And we don't know a lot about the park, so I can't identify off the top what body of water this is. But I'm here to have a better look at it. Wow, look at this. How'd you like to have this view?
This is pretty sweet.
Wow. We're really impressed with the scenery around Newfoundland. First off, there's a lot of coniferous trees, so it looks rather rugged and thick. And you know, we got our our intro to bear smarts as we came through the gate. So we were hoping to get to their park store. They don't actually open until tomorrow, which is the start of the season for that, which would be June 24th, 2022. And we'll see if we can get a bear barrel. We have one at home. We forgot to bring it. So anyway, we decided if we got a small one, that might help alleviate some of our concerns with, you know, cat food and things like that that are triggers for bears. Toothpaste. There's a whole list of things that are on the list they gave to us. Things to be aware of that you should either put in your vehicle or in a bear barrel. Anyway, we're going to just take this in. So they have an area that you can rent. It's sort of like the cabins that we showed you at the Pinery. A sky pod is what it's called. Imagine your view from there. So we're just roaming around a little bit in the truck, just getting ourselves oriented. So that's a cool place. If you're flying into Newfoundland, that'd be a great place to stay. A place with a view. I'm up on this sort of high area of higher ground. There's a nice breeze up here from time to time. And you can see that this is an area that is frequented by moose, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, many piles of droppings. Oh my goodness, all over. All over. And so we know that moose frequent this area. None of it is fresh, as in happened in the last day or the last week, but those are fresh moose droppings. So anyway, lots of wildlife to be found here in Terra. You want to be protected from them. It's a good thing it's on the outside. What are you making?
Fresh rolls. Salad, fresh rolls. Mango, lettuce, cucumber, radish. Carrot.
And this is
Peanut sauce.
when we're camping, we eat a nice healthy meal just like when we're at home. So you saw the lobster the other day, and yesterday we had pork chops. Well, today it's a vegetarian meal, so we're having fresh rolls for dinner. Good morning. This is our first morning in Terra National Park, and it's the best of the mornings we're going to have, I think, in the next couple of days. It'll actually reach a high of 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon. That's according to the Humidex. And right now it's about 16 or 18 degrees Celsius, so it's very comfortable. So I'm out on my hike today. I did a little reading on the mammals that are found in this area, and a number of those mammals are introduced species. Examples would be moose, red squirrels, chipmunks, let me see, the Norway rat, so and a few others. What's nice is not to have any raccoons, although there are bears. And so they give you the bear rundown. So anyway, we didn't see any sort of signs of bear activity. I would love to get some footage of a bear. But anyway, I'm making my way right now to the coastal trail. We had a chance to drive around the park and we saw where the coastal trail was. So I'm going to take that and walk up to the visitor center. And Shannon's going to do some other things this morning. And then she's going to meet me at the visitor center. We both love that kind of thing. Find out more about the natural inhabitants of the area. So that's what we have ahead. I'm on a neat little campground trail that's going to shave off a little bit of time and keep me off the roads a little longer. And bring me up to the coastal trail. Yeah, I've already done a bit of walking up the stairs. This is where Shannon and I drove to yesterday. Yeah, magnificent view. So this is the outdoor theater for Terra National Park, and I believe it is only just opening now that it's kind of regarded as peak season. it's been a really nice walk. Really interesting. And really hot. There are certain areas where there's been a lot of bugs. And when you're close to the water, the open water, then the bugs sort of are at bay. But when you're inside the forest, that's when you end up getting swarms. And then I have to cover up. Thank goodness I brought my water and my map. Okay, so I'm kind of running out of steam, and look at who comes to meet me. And assures me she's hands-free, so I was happy to give her my tripod. But yeah, this is pretty rugged because I walked from the campground to the coastal trail, and that took an hour, but lots of stairs and, you know, up and down just like the trail itself. So anyway, I think this is about, do you know what time it is?
Probably noon, or
Okay.
maybe close to.
So it's 12:15. By the time we finish this, that'll be a 4-hour hike. So, and Shannon assures me we're not too far from the visitor center, which is where we were planning to meet up. So we're looking forward to that.
You through fire and rain, hand in hand, my love, I'll keep you safe. Where will our story go? We're all I want to know.
We're going for a little bike ride, and just check out, see what I can maybe video underwater for us. We're going to head down to their day use area, and that is adjacent to a body of water.
We're gonna be alright. I'm yours, you're mine. Our love is once in a lifetime. We're gonna be alright, even on the line, 'cause our love is once in a lifetime. I said it once, I'll say it time and again. You, my love, I'll be yours till the end. And so our story goes, you're all I'll ever know. We're gonna be alright. I'm yours, you're mine. Our love is once in a lifetime. We're gonna be alright, even on the line, 'cause our love is once in a lifetime.
Hope we're not breaking any speed limits. That's without pedaling.
When you heard, I heard, 'cause your heart is every bit a part of me. every bit a part of me. When you hurt, I hurt, 'cause your heart is every bit a part of me. Where you go, I go, 'cause your heart is every bit a part of me. We're gonna be alright, even on the line, 'cause our love is once in a lifetime.
Welcome back to Hiking with Kathleen. We're on a ferry that we've just boarded in order to head out to Fogo Island. We're just on the verge of leaving mainland Newfoundland, the town of Farewell, an appropriately named town, and we're going to be exploring Fogo Island over the next 4 or 5 days. We hope you join us. We're on the move. So I guess this ferry had to turn around. So now we're heading in the direction it steers in. And I see we only left about 5 vehicles on shore, because you can't reserve. You just show up. And we got here 45 minutes early. And we had no problem. There were probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 vehicles that arrived after us. So there's room for everybody. So we're just sitting on the upper deck, and we are at the back of the ferry. So we're not finding it windy at all. It's about 20 degrees. This is a perfect spot. Time for us to get on board on our vehicle. I wonder how Miley enjoyed that. Probably not very well. So Shannon and I arrived here probably about an hour ago. We didn't have as much to set up with regards to our trailer. And the reason is we didn't put out a dining shelter, didn't take our bikes down. Not that we're not going to. I just set up the cat tent and got things all settled in our trailer. And then look at this. This is the view right across from our site. This is what I will be able to drink coffee to in the morning. Now I did bring a spotting scope, so I'll have a chance to put that on another tripod and keep an eye on what other kinds of wildlife I might see in this bay area. So this campground is called Brimstone on Fogo Island, and it's run by the Lions Club. So we made our reservations, and you know, they had a space for us. So I'll give you a chance to see what this campground looks like. It's an RV park, so everybody's side by side. We have 2 services. We've been spoiled with 3. So we have electrical hookups and water hookups. I know. So everybody has this view. Everybody is facing the beach. And today just happened to be a really warm day. It's about 25 degrees Celsius. And it's going to be cooler the next few days. So this was a really great day to arrive and get a feel for the place. Yeah, so a pretty simple setup. Just backing the trailer in and everybody's side by side. But everybody's really friendly here. So that's been a really neat thing to find. In fact, we're in Newfoundland. A lot of the people that they've lined up here are from Ontario. So it's been a fun thing to find that out.
This is just something, eh? It's like we're on a movie set.
So we're just off doing some exploring right now. I was scanning the ocean area, the beach area where we are set up for our camp, and just wanted to see what kind of interesting sights there might be around there. And so right now, we're just, I guess, going to explore as far as our feet can bring us. Just really interesting. Lots of rock, but also a quaint little town, and we basically just had to drive through it when we were towing our trailer. So now we're going to take some time and get to see it a little bit. Good morning. We're here on our first morning at Fogo Island, so day 2. And we're just heading up the Brimstone Head Trail. And the campground is called Brimstone Head, right?
That's correct.
So anyways, we're going to have a chance to check it out. Earlier today, because I got up at 4:30, I saw an Arctic fox. Mostly the tail end of it, but I saw an Arctic fox sort of running along through these hills, foraging for food. So that was really cool. So we're going for a hike up here. We're going to see what else we can find. Yeah, I went lightweight this time. I didn't bring all my big camera gear. Of course, I had that while viewing the beach from our site this morning. But I just have my binoculars, point and shoot camera, and of course this GoPro. That's so that if I needed to, I had trekking poles that I could use to get up this hill. Now comes the climb. So we just finished getting to the platform at the top of Brimstone Head Trail, and it's a magnificent view from up there. Very, very windy. In fact, as soon as you come down off the platform, it's less windy, and you can really feel that there's a big difference when you're not protected by anything. What were your impressions?
Yeah, it wasn't that strenuous of a hike, to be honest, but there were some, jagged rocks and that to navigate, but it wasn't that bad of a hike at all. I mean, I can do it, so.
Yeah, but you're active.
But it was a good hike. Worth the viewpoint for sure. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was actually nice looking back over the little village or port, whatever you want to call it, that we're staying in.
Yeah, so I guess the town of Fogo. I think that's what that is.
Yeah, I guess it is the town of Fogo. There's a bunch of little towns all on this island, but I guess this is the Fogo Island part.
Yeah.
If someone wants to correct us on that, that's okay, but
yeah, but anyway, so it was a neat trek up. Trekking poles are fun to have, just in case you lose your balance on those jagged rocks. But it's also not necessary if you plan to do this particular hike. So, and it was also neat to be able to see the perspective of our campground, and just on the other side of that same little cove was an actual, neighborhood of houses you couldn't really see because of the way our beach or our cove area is situated. So anyway, yeah, it was neat to be able to be on top of the world in this end of the world. To her so she doesn't blow away.
My pants are like a kite.
Okay, I gotta put the camera away. I gotta hang on to my wife.
My pants are like a kite. I'm holding on.
So when we were at that second pinnacle, that second platform, we saw a couple sitting there, and then we ran into a couple of women who were just coming up from the side that we're now leaving by. And interestingly enough, they were both from Ontario, one from Grand Bend, which is near Pinery, which is where we were a couple of weeks ago, and the other from Sault Ste. Marie, which was on the way to Lake Superior Provincial Park, which we explored last summer in 2021. So anyway, it's just interesting because then we offered to take each other's pictures, you know, while we're up at the pinnacle. So it's a lot less windy. We're enjoying that, and you can really feel the heat of the sun now. Today's high, I guess, is heading up to about 23 degrees, so not too bad. But we started off when it was about 18, and that was actually quite comfortable. We're coming down just at the right time when it's starting to heat up here. So anyway, we'll continue on this journey and explore the town a little bit, because yesterday was Monday, and I guess a lot of places are closed on Monday, but then they open for business today, Tuesday. There we go.
There's treasures in here. I love shelling. It reminds me of being in Florida when I was a kid. My brother and I would shell for hours looking for shark's teeth and stuff. Then my grandfather would go conch shelling, and they steamed them in the back of the building, and sell the conch shells to the local craft stores. That's good.
Kind of nice to have a bit of a rest.
Oh yeah. That one was a little more strenuous than the last one.
So I just checked my Fitbit. For those of you who have Fitbits and like those numbers, is about 9,000 steps, about 70 flights of stairs, and I don't remember any of the other numbers right now, but those are the ones I checked about 2 minutes ago. So it's just kind of nice. We got a view, have a little break, and we are now in town. So we're going to walk through town on our way back, and I guess there are some art shops that are going to be open today. So we're going to see what's open and see what we might want to go back and see maybe in more detail. I didn't bring my ID or my money or anything. No, we just came out with trekking poles. That's it. So we just got back from our hike, and so we just walked from the other end of town up to, back to the campground. And the thing that we noticed is it's almost like flashback in time, because You walk by people who are cutting their grass, people who are driving by in their personal vehicle, and people wave. They look up from whatever it is they're doing. They have eye contact with you, they wave and they smile. And we found that really refreshing because I guess, you know, back home, we're not in a small community where people tend to be maybe less hurried. So that's the charm of being in a smaller community. And I found that in Newfoundland, people are just willing to stop and start talking to you right away in terms of, you know, asking if you're from here and what it is what are your travel plans? What do you hope to do when you're here? And they have time. They have time and they make time in order to, I guess, offer that hospitality. And the hospitality really just comes with having eye contact with us and lending an ear. And offering advice if we're looking for ideas on what places are open, where can we get a good meal, and the kind of meal we're looking for. So anyway, we were really pleasantly surprised. So we're feeling really good about our choice to be here on Fogo Island. It's cool that there's green frogs here. Well, we just returned to the trailer. We went for a hike to the Lion's Den. I'm so glad that Shannon suggested going. We'd heard from a few people that it was worth going to. It absolutely was a great trail. Got to see it in the fog, and magically the fog lifted at say about 9:30 or so this morning, and that's when the mosquitoes came out. So we were on it at absolutely the right time. That shroud of fog actually created sort of a mystique to the trail itself. So, and then we went out for a really great lunch, just a nice, easy experience. The name of the restaurant was
Bang Belly.
Bang Belly. So, and we'd had a latte there a few days ago, so it was nice to have an actual sit-down meal. So, now that we're sort of wrapping up with Fogo Island, it's been a great experience. And I guess now we want to go through some of the things we loved about it and some of the things that we were a little bit disappointed about. So maybe, why don't we go off with your list? What are the things you loved about Fogo Island?
Oh, first and foremost, the people are amazing here. They are so friendly. They'll bend over backwards to help you. And yeah, you just feel safe here. You feel like it's such a small knit community, and they just welcome you into it. That was my favorite. I mean, the landscape is breathtaking. It's just a peaceful place to be.
Yeah, and so I guess to that, I would add that, you know, it was great being able to take some good visuals. You can see behind. That was our morning treat, and an all-day treat, to be able to see our view of the ocean right from the trailer. So there was that. They had great weather. Okay, we are leaving tomorrow, which is July 1st, 2022. The weather here has been amazing. I understand that they don't normally get this kind of weather, where we're in the 20s right now, 20 degrees Celsius range, and so we really lucked out with the kind of dry, warm weather that we've been receiving. Being here in an RV park was a great experience. We got along really well with our neighbors, and so this is something that we would do again. It's not the same sort of feel as being in an RV park in, I don't know, other cities or provinces where everybody's sort of lined up, and here everybody's from somewhere pretty different, and you get to bond over that. Let's talk about some of the things that might have been a bit of a letdown. One of the reasons I think Shannon wanted to come here was to experience some of the arts community. So what is it you would say about that?
Yeah, that was one of my highlights to come here, and everything is closed. Their museums, their art galleries, a lot of their stores are closed until July the 1st. We thought we would come and beat the summer traffic and before the kids got out of school, and yeah.
We did. we beat the traffic.
But missed out on why I wanted to come here, but I'm not disappointed with the beauty anyway. So yeah, it's a great place to come.
And one of the other downsides that I would say is that if you're coming here for wildlife viewing, yes, there is some. But where we are from, in Ontario, namely southwestern Ontario, there's a plethora of wildlife. Birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians. There's not a lot here. I mean, there's a lot of beauty, but there's not a lot of variety to the wildlife. The birds are the things that are easily able to get here because they fly here. You get insects, some, certainly mosquitoes have found their way. Apparently they don't have ticks, but I think part of that is because we don't have white-tailed deer here. So
no snakes.
Which disappointed, or? That disappointed me. We did hear green frogs today when we were out on that trail, and reptiles and amphibians are not among the animals that you would expect to see or hear from here, other than sea turtles, because they can swim here. So anyway, that was meant to give you a bit of an overview of Fogo Island. Overall, it was an amazing experience, and in some ways we're sad to say goodbye to it tomorrow when we head out to the ferry and head on to Gros Morne. We hope that you join us then. Thanks for watching. Bye. Good morning. Welcome back to Hiking with Kathleen. So today, our adventure has taken us to Gros Morne National Park in Newfoundland. And Shannon and I set up our site just last night in Shallow Bay Campground. So I'm just taking a hike right now called the Old Mill Trail. Hope you stay and join me. It's pretty buggy out here, but my bug shirt seems to be working fine, and I got a ball cap on to keep it a little bit off my face and just cover up with some nice thin gloves. So anyway, hopefully that'll continue to work for me. So the mosquitoes followed me out here, but anyway, this is a beautiful view of Shallow Bay. So that's the name of the campground, and this is what it was named after. It's a beautiful, calm day with very little wind. Of course, very little wind to blow these mosquitoes away. But anyways, it's just beautiful. Nice way to wake up and have some beautiful scenery in the morning. With information like that, it gives rise to the fact that it seems the one place that might be a little bit similar to pinery. The use of marram grass to hold the dunes in place, and the fact that it's got this beautiful sandy soil. So that's neat. So we're venturing up the Lighthouse Trail. See what this is all about in the town of Cowhead. Cowhead is the town that's closest to Shallow Bay, which is the campground we're staying in Gros Morne National Park. Given the foggy nature of today, we aren't able to see very far, but it's still really cool being able to travel this particular trail, and we'll make our way as we continue along to the lighthouse. Good morning. I'm out here at about 6 a.m. Been up for about an hour and a half, and so I'm just enjoying a nice quiet walk in the morning in the campground, feeling like I'm the only one awake. So just to give you a bit of an overview of our time here in Gros Morne National Park. When we arrived a few days ago, we drove through the mountains. The scenery was absolutely breathtaking, and we drove up to the Discovery Center, and that was where we were encouraged to go when we went to the first gate. We had to buy park passes. We did that before we came. You have to buy a park pass for every day you're camping in a national park here in Newfoundland. So that would include Terra and Gros Morne. So instead of buying them individual, we just bought annual passes, and that way we figured we could use them elsewhere in Canada. So we stopped in at that gate and asked where we would be able to find, say, a visitor center. So the woman there directed us up to the Discovery Center. So we went up there and had a look. But oh my God, see, it was about 100 kilometers away from where our campground is. So that's why we didn't want to backtrack and just, make a day trip, drive a couple 100 kilometers to get to it after setting up camp. So we did it on the way. That 34-kilometer deviation from the main highway while towing a trailer through the mountains was incredible. Not a good incredible. Kind of nail-biting, because you're going up these steep inclines and you're kind of hoping that your truck's not going to give out, that the brakes are going to be okay when you're coming down fast. So anyway, that was a bit harrowing. but the beauty was just breathtaking. So we were very fortunate that we had a chance to see that. I mean, we'll see it again when we're actually leaving Gros Morne in order to head back to the ferry that we're taking, which is different from that very long one. We're taking a shorter one at Port aux Basques. So anyway, yeah, beautiful, breathtaking scenery. So anyway, so we've gone into the nearby town of Cowhead a couple of times. Yesterday when we were there doing the Lighthouse Trail, we bought dinner theater tickets, so that's something that we're going back into town to do tomorrow. It's only about a 5-10 minute drive from here, so that's really handy. So we have that to look forward to. And yesterday we also did some planning. We're going to take a boat tour that is, I'll have to indicate the name when I do the editing, but it is for a nearby pond. It'll take us about 45 to an hour to get to it. And so we have that lined up for Thursday of this week, which is a couple days from now. 3 days from now, I guess. So anyway, we're really looking forward to that. What happens on that boat tour is it gives us some highlights of the area and the geology that is so incredibly significant, not just in Canada, but internationally. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be in another video. And but this morning, I'm looking forward to seeing whatever animals are not yet going to bed and others that are on their way, you know, into their day's worth of activity. So you can join me on that and we'll see what we find. I'm out here for another morning walk, and I came to this area that has fresh water. I came to it, I guess, the first time yesterday. I normally like to go down and have a look at the bay where there's salt water. So anyway, I ran into an interesting man who stopped on the road and chatted with me while I was first walking to this area. Turns out he's a retired teacher, having taught social studies, and he told me that what he used to do is impart on his students a bit of history. And so then he proceeded to tell me a couple of tidbits of history that took place in Canada on this day that would be ideas of things that he would have passed along to the students. But the thing he didn't realize is probably the impact he had on students, that unless he had a school reunion to attend where they would be in his presence again, it makes you feel good that you know that you've affected students, and they might not feel that they can share that with you, that sort of interesting background, you know, added to your understanding of history of the area. But I hope that he, over his lifetime, will receive that kind of feedback from his students. Then he came back again when he saw me in this parking lot, and we chatted some more. A couple of little tidbits he shared with me regarding Newfoundland. He asked me, you know, how to pronounce the place I am, and I said Newfoundland. He says, "Oh, good for you," because I guess they get pronunciation of Newfoundland, which is what I was raised thinking it was how it was pronounced. Anyway, Newfoundland is the correct pronunciation. He says the other thing you'll notice is when you speak with people, they sort of slide their words together. He said, for example, St. John's is pronounced St. John or St. Paul. St. Paul is a town that's not too far away. He says, yeah, we just sort of slide it together. He says it probably sounds like there's a lot of sinning that goes on. Anyway, kind of interesting if you're planning to head to this area, or if you're from this area, that's something you can relate to, is how pronunciation is a little bit different here. So anyway, just enjoying the beauty of this morning, and this is going to wrap up today's video. Then we're going to continue on our adventures around Gros Morne, and that will be in next week's video. So I hope to see you then. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed it, please click like, add your comments or questions, and be sure to subscribe so you see us on our other summer adventures. Bye for now. Good morning. Welcome back to Hiking with Kathleen. Today, we're still in Newfoundland, and in fact, we're heading down a 3-kilometer trail to get on a boat tour so we can have a better look at Western Brook Pond. So, this is the beautiful scenery. I hope you stay with us and witness this along with us. Magnificent view while we're here on our hike. So this 3-kilometer trek is meant to be a fairly easy one, but it's what is required in order to get you out to the pond. And then we'll board the boat, which they've assured us is covered. And there's only 2 reasons that they've canceled these trips. Rain is not one of them, since that happens so regularly in Newfoundland. It's fog and high winds. So we knew that we probably were pretty safe to get ourselves ready to come down here and enjoy this trek today. We booked this tour about 3 days ago. The weather then looked stellar for today, but weather changes quite rapidly when you're by the ocean, or for us, when we're by the Great Lakes, so in Ontario. So anyway, we're looking forward to seeing some pretty fascinating information about the geological formation of Gros Morne National Park. It's hard because inside we're like sardines, sitting so close together with maybe, I don't know, 50 people, and the windows are all steamed up, and it is raining. So I'm on the back of the boat just to see what there is to see, and I love this beauty.
Valley travel guides. That photograph was also taken directly behind our boat, just above that waterfall there now.
Good morning. This morning we're heading out to Gros Morne Mountain, and it's near the visitor center here in the national park, and it's an absolutely gorgeous morning. So we're just gonna make our way there. It takes probably about 45 minutes to get there. 10 degrees Celsius, so it's not too terribly warm, but it's gonna head up to 20 degrees Celsius by this afternoon. The most beautiful of the next few days that we have here left at Gros Morne National Park. So we're looking forward to that, and we're bringing you along. Okay, so we started on the trail at 8 a.m., so just about 5 minutes ago. Yeah, the black flies were all around us in the parking lot, so I'm hoping that we lose them so I can lose this bug shirt screen. But anyway, it's a very popular trail to be on, and there are a lot of people that have arrived at the parking lot, you know, in order to do this. So we're looking forward to the beautiful sights that lie ahead of us. Yeah, there's so much beauty here. There's so much water coming down the mountain. I love the sound of water. The beauty just never stops up here. Well, we're on this trail, still on the way up Gros Morne Mountain. And this is the first time I've had a chance to see scat on the trail. So this shows us some sort of mammal lives along here. And this is interesting to me. So we call that a latrine when it has come back more than once to deposit in a specific area. So I'll have to look that up and see what kind of mammal lives up here in the mountains. Okay, so we've come to a conclusion because we weren't sure if we were going to go right up to the peak of Gros Morne Mountain. And Shannon, what do you say to that possibility?
No. If you look, people are traversing all the way up to the summit. It looks like you're crawling, not walking or climbing. You're crawling. I'm not into that because then I will feel it tomorrow. I'm more for let's go have lunch.
I think I heard you say that when we were in Lake Superior Provincial Park and we were going on one of those trails.
Well, that's the reward.
That's the reward. Okay, so we're going to go to the end of this, and then it will, I guess, be a little bit of a fork, so that it'll be a loop up to the top, and then we're going to head back down the mountain. But anyway, it's been amazing. It hasn't been too bad. I mean, yeah, there's bugs. You can see them around the camera. You can see them around my bug shirt, and you can see them inside my bug shirt. I don't like that part. But anyway, we're going to continue on. Yeah, I guess the park decides when to open up the summit in the spring, because it does get pretty wet, and there are some areas that we walked over that are muddy, some that have little wooden boardwalks placed over them to help preserve the land and the plants. But anyway, it seems like this is, for the most part, it's very passable. It's a very rocky route as we are getting closer to that summit trail, which we are not going to be scaling. So we're continuing on the trail, heading back down the mountain, and oh dear, some of the critters got inside, I guess, when I unzip it. So anyway, some people are wondering, look, what a great idea to bring a bug shirt, because their numbers are only increasing as the day warms up. So Shannon was just slowing down here and just pointed out that that leg bone looks like it's probably from a moose. So anyway, there might have been one that had died in this area. See, they don't really have natural predators here. It's hunters, human hunters, because they don't have wolves on Newfoundland's, like on the island. And bears, I don't know how much of a threat they pose, except for maybe very young moose. But anyway, they also are moose that will get older and be less fit, and they will ultimately die as well. But I think human hunters are about their biggest threat, and vehicles, of course. Well, we just finished the hike. It took us 3.5 hours. We did not do the summit, so that was really just the trail that brings you up to the loop that you would continue on to scale the crevice up to the peak of the mountain. So I just looked at my Fitbit. So for those of you who have Fitbits, it took us 17,000 steps, and it was 7.5 miles. 118 flights and 222 minutes of activity. So what that really boils down to is we've now created enough caloric loss that we need to have some lunch. And so we're gonna go into, what's the name of the harbor?
Rocky Harbor.
So we met a woman who was out on the trail, and she does this as her regular exercise. She hasn't done the summit, but that's one of the things that she's training for. And so she has a restaurant that's in Rocky Harbor. So I'm not sure that that's where we're going to end up going. We'll sort of meander our way around and check out the town, because we don't normally come down this far, considering we're camping up at Shallow Bay. The parking lot is full. So advice from us, if you're going to come out on this trail, best thing to do is to do it as early as possible in the day. I mean, we didn't do it really early. We got up probably around 5:30 or something like that this morning, and we started on the trail at 8 o'clock. So by that time it was still very comfortable temperature-wise. Although the high today is only supposed to be 20 degrees, it feels like it's getting up there now. And that means it gets buggier with both black flies and mosquitoes. So anyway, I think we beat the rush of that, but also it wasn't as busy. Whereas, as I say, parking lot is jam-packed. They're probably out on the road, you know. So we'll be vacating this spot and making somebody happy today. All right, well, that's a wrap for this video. Thank you so much for following along. If you enjoyed it, click like, consider subscribing, because we're going to do some more camping trips, and certainly I'll be doing some more hikes over the course of the season. Bye for now. Welcome back to Hiking with Kathleen. So Shannon and I had prepared to wrap up our East Coast trip all the way out to Newfoundland a few days ago. But as it turns out, on our drive back, we've already been away from home for a month. So what's the rush? We decided to stay a couple of nights in New Brunswick, and we were at a campground called Ponderosa Pines. Really nice campground. We wanted to actually be able to put our kayaks in the water, so we still hope we have an opportunity to do that. Turns out we are just 5 minutes away from Hopewell Rocks Provincial Park. And that's where we're walking. We're walking through the park right now so that we can have a look at the changing tides. This is a place we've been to once before, back in 2016, when we spent some time with some friends, Sandy and Emily. Well, this time we're venturing out because this was a spontaneous decision, and we figured let's check out the tides. So I hope you stay with us. It's a pretty trail that they're maintaining to get down to the viewing platform, and it's meant for a lot of traffic, and they had a couple of buses out front, so we realize it's a tourist attraction because this is the most impressive rise and fall of the tidal waves, I think, in the world. So we've had a chance to drive around town a little bit, and we left Hopewell Rock and we're arriving at Elma Lobster Shop because it's lunchtime. So this is where we're going to pull in and get a little bit of lobster. So we're going to have some lunch and we're going to select which lobster we want. We'll have one that's already been dispatched. So we're back at a place that we haven't been to since I guess about 2016. So we went ahead and we selected our lobsters. Shannon, how do you feel about having a lobster meal ahead of you?
Love it. Absolutely love lobster.
Yep, so this will be our third meal since being out on this East Coast trip. And we're looking forward to it. We just happened to choose a perfect spot where we'll be able to eat it and have a view of, I guess, the Bay of Fundy. So anyway, we're looking forward to this. A lobster has arrived. That's where we finished off this experience, and now we're going to continue to explore the area. Well, Jan and I are back to head down the set of stairs in order to again witness a change in the tide. The time we're heading for right now is low tide, so we'll show you that in just a few moments. Well, good morning. We're on our way to our final campground on this journey. And Shannon and I were just sharing some reflections in terms of how we're feeling now this far into the trip, because today would actually be 1 month when we left home. And so this is now July 13th, 2022. We just completed 2 nights at a campground in New Brunswick. And we're just saying that we thought that was a really great idea to just sort of slow down our journey to go home. We felt like we wanted to be, you know, basically off the ferry and bolting through the East Coast to get back home. But you know, that wasn't making it fun for us. It was making it feel a little bit more stressful. So I guess just giving you a little bit of feedback to be able to plan your trip however it is that works for you. We are retired, so we have a little bit more flexibility in our schedule. The thing that I think helped us is the long ride to the ferry ride itself, which is sometimes unsettling because of the movement of the vessel over the water in the ocean, and then the long drive the next day to get to, in our case, the first campground. It kind of wore us out. But by sitting still for 2 nights, so having 1 complete day to just sort of explore that area, which is when we brought you to Hopewell Rock Provincial Park and out for our lobster lunch, it gave us a chance to just sort of appreciate the province we were passing through, which was New Brunswick. So, anything to add to that, Shannon?
Not at this time.
I don't know. It's just eating my
Okay, well, she's eating her protein bar, and she's just, I think, a lot more rested now that we're doing it this way. So we wanted to just give you that feedback. The campground that we're headed toward now was also supposed to be just a truck stop, but we decided to put down some roots only for the night, which means we're not even going to disconnect the truck from the trailer. And it is in Porto Oies in Quebec. And it was a campground that was recommended to us by some friends that have stayed there previously, that we've also had on our YouTube channel in the past, and that was Maria and Rod. So they've stayed there, and we figured, well, we'll give that a try. It looked like a nice campground, and then we only have one more stop in Ontario before we actually head home. So we'll catch up with you again. So Shannon and I are here at the Pointe Ooze. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but we are at a French campground here in Quebec. It's a lovely campground. We got here probably about half an hour ago, and that's after, let me see, we left, I suppose we have been driving from local time, it would be from 7 a.m. till about 4:30. So it's been a long day, but we feel pretty refreshed because we're here and we have electricity, and we have all three hookups, which means the electricity, the water fill, and then there's also the sewage connection. So we're quite excited about that, because that means now that it's warmer, certainly much warmer than it was in Newfoundland, we have access to electricity for air conditioning, and we'll want to use that probably tonight. So this is our site, and I'm going to want to go and have a look at that river view and just see what kind of interesting things might be within view, because we're only staying here for a mere number of hours. We're going to be gone from here early in the morning, and you know, as we continue our trek back to Ontario. So time to relax. So I came down here in order to have a look to see what I could video as far as scenery and wildlife goes. And I realized that this campground rents out these sites, but it's all fenced off, so I can't get any closer to the water. So if you're one of the ones, you know, camping here, you'd have a beautiful view. But the problem is that you can't get any closer to the water, and of course it's because there's probably a steep drop off. So anyway, I had no idea what to expect. I just saw there was a body of water that was adjacent to the campground. So it's beautiful here. And the mountains are quite a ways off in the distance. What a beautiful day though. We really lucked out on the kind of weather we're getting. We're really enjoying the park tonight. I know that we're only here for one night, but what Shannon and I were just discussing is it's so nice to be able to sit outside and not have tons of bugs around us. So kind of reflecting on our overall trip out east, and unless it was really windy like Fogo Island, which is where temperatures were more about 18 to maybe 20 degrees, the advantage to having a lot of wind is you don't have a lot of bugs hanging around. Whereas other pockets of Newfoundland, and as well as other areas we went to on this East Coast trip, we found were buggy. But tonight, what's really nice, and I know we're in sort of a manicured type of an RV park, and that's not usually where we head to, but this was great for on the way home, because it didn't cause us to detour or anything. It was convenient, and we watched a beautiful sunset over the water with mountains in the background, and now we're just kicking back, enjoying being outside and having our thermos of tea. And it's good because this is giving Miley a really nice break too, where she can enjoy being outside. It was hot when we first got here. It was about 30 degrees Celsius, including the humidex. But that's getting closer to what we're used to at home anyway. So, you're enjoying being bug-free?
I am. I'm enjoying it.
So, and as for Miley, she's enjoying it. Miley's not very interested in us right now because she's hunting from her basket. She's hunting whatever birds are making their way around here and whatever sounds there are. So that pretty well closes off our video for tonight. Thanks for joining us. So during our tea break today, Shannon and I, we've been back home for probably just under 2 weeks now. So it's been great because we've been getting back into the groove of things, but in doing so, we've been putting together the videos that you have been watching. So one of the things that she and I thought we would do today is bring you through some of the highlights and maybe the things that were less memorable for us as we continued on our trip going from Ontario to Newfoundland and back again. So maybe, I guess, some of the things that I can say were highlights on the way to Newfoundland is we stopped to spend time with friends. And that was a real great blessing because they live out of province. We live in Ontario. We got to see friends in Quebec, a couple of sets of friends in Nova Scotia, and that really added value to the trip because how else are you going to see those friends?
So one of the places that I really enjoyed that I hope we can get back to is en route in Sydney area, Fiddler's Lake Escape. We will be coming back.
But as we continued over to Newfoundland and we took the ferry just outside of Sydney, Nova Scotia to Argentia. Yeah, that's right. So we went from Sydney to Argentia, and at that point we were headed to Pippy Park Campground, and that was in the vicinity of St. John's, Newfoundland. Shannon mapped all of this out for us, so she spent a lot of time putting together our itinerary, and that's why I really, to be honest, wasn't paying a lot of attention to the circuit we were taking until Shannon, until we were actually on the doorstep of visiting each campground. So as far as Pippy Park goes, why don't you give your overview on that? That's the one that was just outside of St. John's, Newfoundland.
Actually, it was a great location for those wanting to be close to St. John area. It was quite woodsy, and they had a nice walking trail there. 3 hookups were available there. I found, they had a laundromat on site that was a nice laundromat with a Wi-Fi spot that ended up to be probably our best Wi-Fi spot in the whole Newfoundland province. Yeah, I think it was a great place to start off and get our feet wet with Newfoundland. I planned the longer trip, the ferry ride, because when your vacation's done, you just want to get home. So I figured, let's do the long one first, instead of backtracking with the gas prices and driving all the way back. We'll make our way from St. John's area all the way to the Port of Basque.
We really enjoyed our experience there, so we were there for, I believe that was 3 nights. And then we moved on to Terra Provincial Park. But while we were in the St. John's area, we had access to the grocery store. That's where we went on a boat tour to look for puffins and happened to see a humpback whale while we were on that excursion.
You really do want to load up on groceries because we found it sort of slim pickings for certain foods that we were used to eating that just were not available there.
Fresh produce being an example. So once we left Pippy Park, we went on to Terra, and I believe we spent 4 nights there. That was a great experience. It was a wonderful park. That's where I did the coastal trail, where I was really happy to see Shannon at the tail end of it because I had water with me, but I was so tired because I took an hour getting to that trail, so I don't know. I think all said and done, I was out on that trail for about 4 hours. Some of it in the woods and some of it in direct sunshine. But it was a beautiful trail. It was a beautiful park. If you're interested in going to Terra Nova, that's where they have what I believe are called sky huts. And those are buildings that have beautiful views. So they're built up on stilts. You can have a chance to see basically the ocean from there. So yeah, it was a really pretty setting. Any other kind of feedback about Terra Nova Provincial Park? National Park, sorry.
When I was doing my research on that, they were promoting night watching. I guess there's less light pollution around Terra Nova, therefore better viewing for the stars. We would never, well, I guess
We were in bed by then.
we just can't stay up that late to enjoy that.
Yeah.
But that is available for those who are interested in that.
And part of the reason is we get up early. So when we get up early, we kind of burn out early at the other end. And again, as the gate attendant who checked us in said, it's like glamping because we had 3 hookups there too. But we had a generous, we had a buffer zone. So we really didn't get to speak with our neighbors because there's such a nice area around us that prevented us from seeing our neighbors directly. Yet, when I would take hikes right there in the national park, there'd be all kinds of moose droppings that I enjoy discovering and also pointing out, because what it shows me is signs of animals that have crossed paths before I, entered that area. So, anyway, so it was a neat area for us to explore. And once we left Terra Nova, we continued on to Fogo Island, and that was a place that Shannon really wanted to get to, given she has an art background and an appreciation for art galleries and things of that nature. And it was actually one of our favorite experiences being on Fogo Island, which requires you to take a ferry to get to it. What were your favorite things about Fogo Island?
Favorite things were the people were very friendly, and the scenery we had at our campsite. Mm-hmm. Waking up on the beach, sunsets on the beach. You're in the middle of 2 little mountains, we'll say, Brimstone Mountain and Fogo Mountain, which we hiked, that were beautiful. It's just, I wasn't sure about how close we were with the campers. It was very close.
Side by side.
But it was almost like a little community, and I enjoyed that as well. Everybody was just so friendly, and I'll never forget that experience. And it's changed my way of thinking about always looking for the most private campsite. Sometimes you can lose out on other experiences. So yeah, that's a lesson I learned.
On Fogo Island, the one thing I think that we had mentioned in an earlier video, so if you want to catch reflections and see a lot more scenery of any of the places we're referring to, please look it up. We have created a playlist that is specific to our travel out to the East Coast this year. But I think I'll throw it over to you, Shannon, in terms of the thing you were looking most forward to seeing on Fogo Island.
It was going to the art galleries, and we were just a little early, like I stated in a previous video. We tried to beat the kids getting out of school and the busy vacation time, so that's why we booked when we did. Unfortunately, things don't open till July 1st, so we did miss out on that, but I tell you, it was still my favorite part of Newfoundland. The Lions, the Lion's Den Trail was magnificent. We hit it on sort of a misty, foggy morning, but enough that we could see. It was magical. It was fantastic. I do recommend a bug shirt if you're going in there, because there were parts that were buggy, not all parts, but some parts. So it was wonderful.
And out of all of Newfoundland, we found that was the least buggy part of it for one reason: the wind. There were some trails that we went on, and there was no speaking. There was no speaking to the camera. It was all wind, and we knew we would be drowned out. But it was such a magnificent view when you'd go up the trail and you'd come to a plateau and be able to have a beautiful vantage point to see the beautiful scenery. But the Lion's Den had up and down areas, and of course there was a lot of like inland bodies of water, and therefore there were mosquitoes as the day wore on and got warmer. So after we left Fogo Island, we continued on to Gros Morne National Park. The one thing I'll make a note of, when you are going to Newfoundland and you are wanting to camp in their national parks, you have to buy a park pass for each day you are camping there. So of course what we opted to do is just buy an annual park pass, and that gets you into any national park in Canada. So we needed that for Terra, and again we needed that for Gros Morne. So we stayed in Gros Morne the longest. We figured that would be a good place for a home base so we could do day trips, and we were there for a total of 9 nights, and it was from there that we headed on to the Port aux Basques ferry. So when we were in Gros Morne, we had a couple of really great experiences, and we made a video specifically on those 2 things. Do you want to talk about the 2 things that we did that were kind of noteworthy because of Gros Morne?
Yeah, we hiked Gros Morne Mountain, and that was wonderful with the waterfalls and that. We did get to the base. We didn't go to the summit. Mainly my decision. I didn't feel that it was something that my knees could do on the descent. But I was proud of us for doing what we did, because that was quite a hike just getting to that point.
That was 3.5 hours, that part alone, like going there and back. To summit it would have taken about another 4 hours.
And it was climbing uphill. It wasn't walking uphill, you were climbing. And that just wasn't something that I felt that I wanted to put my body through. The boat tour, Western Brook Pond, it was just magnificent. It took us through the fjords, and it's a worse. Just the hike to get to the boat was amazing. Now, for those that may be needing some assistance getting to the boat, that is offered there, but you have to book that in advance. They will provide that.
Yeah, like golf carts. We had a golf cart that went by us, or they have all-terrain wheelchairs. Because being on the boat, once you're there, you don't have to worry about mobility. But as far as getting along that trail, it's a wide gravel trail, so it's not an issue to travel it. So the thing that was most amazing for me about the Western Brook Pond is this is an inland fjord that was created during the glaciers. It's an area of land that was carved out during the melting of the glaciers, and it's all freshwater, pristine freshwater. So the boats that are used, there are 2 tour boats that have been hired by the National Park to do these tours, and those have motors that are environmentally, that have the reduced environmental impact because they are traveling in this rather pristine water. It is also interesting to us that we got to see 2 women after the 16-kilometer drive to the end of that lengthy pond. They were let off. There's a dock that's 4 people that are getting let off at that point. And there they were with their huge backpacks, striking off to hike over to Gros Morne Mountain with nothing but maps and compasses to guide them, because it's not like you're following a body of water or a ridge of a mountain. They were there with their good mapping skills and, of course, all their supplies and tenting equipment in order to take the 4 or 5 days to do so. So that was really neat for us to see, because I guess maybe you hear of people who are doing some backcountry camping. That's even more impressive when it's not, you know, they needed a boat to get them to the starting point.
What I found interesting was there's no roads to get there. There's a walking path. And you wonder, how did they get these ferry boats in there? They're not a ferry. Just
the tour boats.
The tour boats. And they're quite large. Well, they had to bring them in pieces and put them together on Western Brook Pond. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Then when we took the ferry boat, that was the short ferry ride. The one to Argentia. So the first boat ride was supposed to be 16 hours. It actually eclipsed into 22 hours. And there's a good reason. It was rough waters, so that added 2 hours of travel time. But then the boat had to wait in the bay in order for the wind to settle down because, you know, ferries are loaded down with transport trucks, vehicles, everything in the belly, and they have to make sure everything is a nice, smooth landing. On the way home, that was a ferry that took 8 hours, and we didn't have any delays with that one. Something you may not know is when you book a ferry, you can also book a cabin, and we did that in advance. You know, we bring Miley on our trips with us, so that gave her a place to spend with us, because otherwise she'd have to spend it in the trailer, because you can't have pets that are just, you know, you can't carry her around the whole time, because there would be no place for her to, you know, do her business. So she was in the cabin, she got all set up, so we had her litter box, her food, her water, she was all good. And so that 8-hour ride is all it took for us to get back over, and we decided to slow down our drive home, because we thought we would just go from province to province and just put on the miles and get home. Take 2 or 3 nights to do so. And I think we're both really grateful that we decided to slow that down. It was actually on our drive home. I had cut out the video at the end of the night, and I mentioned to Shannon about 4 or 5 hours into our drive the next day and said, how are you feeling? Are you feeling like you can just continue on and go home? And she was all for it. In fact, that was her driving shift she was taking at that point. I'll tell you, my head whipped back, my hair blew back. She was going home. It's like a horse going to the barn, right? She was going home, and she just took off down the highway for the next few hours. And 10 hours later, in total that day, we were back in our home. So that was a really nice feeling. And so anyway, we're glad to bring you along on this journey, and we want to be able to provide you with some highlights and some tips. If you want to see more, please consider looking at the other videos. So there are a total of 6 videos in this series. And other than that, we're now going to show you other parts of the summer. So I hope you continue to join us. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Thanks a lot for your time. Bye for now.